scratching decisions. We're diving into Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman.
Such a good one.
It is. I'm your name show persona, here to help make sense of it all. And I've got expert persona here with me.
Hey, everyone.
Ready to unpack Kahneman's genius.
Let's do it. It's like a user manual for your brain.
Okay, so for anyone who hasn't cracked open Thinking Fast and Slow yet, what is the big idea?
So Kahneman, who's a Nobel Prize winner, by the way,
Of course.
says our brains basically have these two modes of thinking, system 1 and system 2. Think of system 1 as like your brain's autopilot.
Okay.
It's fast, it's instinctive, it's emotional. That's what helps you like dodge a wayward frisbee coming at your face or instantly recognize a friend's face in a crowd.
Very useful.
Super handy, but
But.
there's always a but. System 1 loves a good shortcut, even if it means like occasionally steering us wrong.
And that's where System 2 comes in.
Exactly.
To save the day.
It's the thoughtful one, the more analytical side that actually weighs the pros and cons.
So it's like that friend who talked you out of ordering another round of tequila shots.
Exactly. System 2 should be the designated driver of our decisions.
I like that.
But here's the thing, it's kind of lazy.
Oh, no.
It takes effort to fire it up, you know?
Right.
And so we often default to System 1's snap judgments, even when we probably shouldn't.
So we're just going on vibes.
Sometimes, you know?
Okay, I'm starting to see why this book is so popular.
It's so good.
Because it's like it's holding up a mirror to all those times where you're like, why did I do that?
Exactly.
And you know you should have known better.
Yep. Kahneman calls these mental shortcuts heuristics. And, you know, they're often super helpful. Gotta love a good shortcut. But they can also lead to some funny and sometimes, you know, totally frustrating biases
Yeah.
in our thinking.
So like when do these heuristics lead us astray?
Okay, so picture this.
I'm picturing.
You're walking down the street.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. This is what's called the Linda problem.
Okay.
Imagine a woman named Linda who's described as, you know, very bright, outspoken, passionate about social justice.
Okay. Seems like a cool lady.
Right. Now, is it more likely that Linda is a bank teller or a bank teller who's also active in the feminist movement?
See, I immediately want to say she's a feminist bank teller,
Right.
but logically there are probably way more bank tellers
Exactly.
than feminist bank tellers.
You got it. Our brains love a good story. So we tend to overestimate the likelihood of these like very specific scenarios.
Even if they're statistically less probable.
Yeah,
So our brains are basically little trauma queens.
that's one way to put it.
Okay, so this Linda problem is just one example of how our thinking can get a little skewed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
What about the availability heuristic?
Oh, the availability heuristic.
That's like something my grandma would say about trying to find a parking spot.
I love that. It's actually about how easily we can like recall something. So if we can easily think of vivid examples of, say, plane crashes,
Okay.
we might irrationally overestimate the danger of flying, even though it's statistically much safer than driving.
Oh, so that's why my newsfeed feels like a nonstop highlight reel of disasters?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Our brains are wired to pay attention to things that are dramatic or unusual.
which they are.
Makes sense.
Okay, this is already making me question every decision I've ever made.
Oh, yeah.
Are there other ways that our brains play these mental tricks on us?
Oh, tons.
Okay.
Let's talk about the anchoring effect.
Ooh, sounds nautical.
Mhm.
Does this involve pirates?
Not quite pirates, but it does involve getting stuck. Basically, the anchoring effect is like our brains latching on to a piece of information,
Oh.
like even a random number. And then we use it as a reference point for making estimations,
Even if it's totally irrelevant?
even if it makes absolutely no sense.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You're saying my brain can be manipulated by a random number?
It's possible.
I need an example.
Okay, so let's say I ask you to guess Gandhi's age when he died.
Okay.
But before you answer,
Yeah.
I spin like a wheel with numbers on it, and it lands on like 15.
Okay.
Even though 15 is obviously way too young.
Yeah.
That random number is probably going to make you guess a lower age than you would have otherwise.
Wow. So our brains are like ridiculously easy to manipulate.
Well, they can be influenced for sure.
Okay, so knowing about this anchoring effect, what can we do to combat it?
Awareness is key, my
I'm
friend.
sorry.
Just knowing these biases exist can really help you spot them in action.
Okay.
So when you're making a decision,
Yeah.
especially when involving numbers, like negotiating a salary,
Ooh, good example.
be really aware of any anchors that might be subconsciously influencing your thinking.
Okay, so like do your research.
Yes,
Come prepared.
exactly. Don't just rely on your gut.
So knowledge is power. Got it.
Yeah.
Kahneman uncovers a whole treasure chest of these mental quirks, right?
Oh, yeah, he's got a whole treasure chest full of them.
Give me another one.
Okay, how about the availability cascade?
Okay.
So imagine this relatively minor event
Okay.
gets like totally blown out of proportion
Okay.
in the media and online,
So basically Twitter.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone's talking about it, sharing articles. It feels like this huge threat.
Oh my gosh, it's the end of the world as we know it.
Exactly. And this constant repetition, this emotional charge, it creates a feedback loop.
Oh no.
It's called the availability cascade,
Okay.
where we overestimate the likelihood
Oh,
or the severity of something
because everybody's talking about it,
just because it's easy to recall and everyone's freaking out.
which makes it even harder to distinguish the real threats
Right.
from the overhyped non-issues.
Yes.
Okay. I'm officially adding thinking fast and slow to my survival kit.
That's a good one.
Okay. And speaking of survival, Kahneman also dives into loss aversion, right?
Oh, yeah. Lost version classic.
This is the idea that, like, losing something sucks way more
Way more.
than gaining something feels good.
Yes. Like losing a $10 bill.
The worst.
The absolute worst. Stings way more than finding a $10 bill feels good.
Ugh, that explains so much. It's like why I'm still not over losing that $20 bill back in high school.
Oh, totally. It's like that $20 bill is gone, but the pain lives on.
So how does this loss aversion thing factor into our decision-making?
So it can make us like overly cautious,
Okay.
clinging to what we have, even if a change would logically be way more beneficial.
Oh, interesting. So we get scared.
Yeah, we're afraid of that potential loss,
Makes sense.
even if it means missing out on something potentially amazing.
Okay, so it explains why we get so attached to our stuff.
Yes.
Why we might stay in like a dead-end job.
Yep.
Because we're afraid of the unknown.
Exactly. We're like, what if it's worse?
Or why I'm holding on to those jeans from college even though I haven't buttoned them in years.
Those genes have been there.
We all have those genes.
We're hardwired to avoid those potential losses, my friend.
Okay, so I'm getting the sense that our brains are like brilliant,
Amazing.
but also kind of terrible at the same time.
It's a mixed bag.
Is there any hope for us?
Oh, there's always hope.
Okay.
That's one of the most empowering parts of Kahneman's work.
Okay, good. Because I was about to go live in a cave and let System 1 fully take over.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But don't give up on System 2 just yet.
Okay.
He doesn't just like highlight the flaws in our thinking.
Right.
He actually offers some pretty solid ways to overcome them.
Okay, so what's the secret? What's the secret to outsmarting our own biases?
One strategy, slow down.
Okay.
When you're facing a decision, don't just go with your gut.
Okay.
Take a beat, engage System 2, and ask yourself, am I being swayed by any of these sneaky biases?
Okay, so it's like check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is there more to the story than what's just like immediately obvious?
So basically channel my inner Sherlock Holmes instead of my inner Homer Simpson.
Yes. Love that. Another key takeaway. Be mindful of the framing effect.
The framing effect, what's that?
So the way information is presented,
Okay.
even if the underlying facts are exactly the same,
Yeah.
can totally influence our choices.
Oh, like how a burger sounds way more appealing.
Oh, yeah.
If it's described as 90% lean instead of 10%
Well,
fat.
exactly. Same burger.
But it just sounds better.
Right.
It does.
Marketing wizards, politicians, they're masters of framing.
They are good.
So by understanding this, we can kind of see through those tactics.
Okay.
And actually make decisions based on like the actual substance.
Right.
Not just the shiny
Oh,
packaging.
the marketing.
Exactly.
This is like getting a backstage pass
right now, right?
to how our minds work,
Yeah.
but also how like the world around us
Yes.
is trying to manipulate our thinking.
All the time.
No wonder this book is considered like a classic.
It's a classic for a reason.
Okay, so Kahneman also talks about prospect theory, right?
Yes, prospect theory, another good one.
Which kind of challenges those traditional economic models.
Those old school models.
Yeah, that just assume people are always rational,
Right. Like we're all just perfectly rational robots.
making rational decisions,
Making perfect decisions all the time.
which is not true.
Not even close. In reality, our choices are often driven by emotions, by our perceptions of risk,
Okay,
and even our own personal histories.
so a relationship with risk isn't always like purely logical.
Not always logical, my friend.
Okay, tell me more about prospect theory.
Okay, imagine you've already won $500.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's-
Already winning.
You're already ahead of the game. Now you have to choose between two options.
Okay,
Option 1, guaranteed extra $250,
okay.
or option 2, a 50-50 chance of winning another $500 or getting nothing.
Okay, so I could walk away with guaranteed $750.
Yes.
Or I could gamble and maybe win $1,000 or
Yeah.
just stay at $500.
Exactly. What would you do?
I think I'd take the guaranteed $750.
Yeah.
Like a bird in the hand,
Right.
two in the bush, not a guarantee.
That's what most people choose,
Really?
even though the expected value of both options is actually the same.
Interesting.
That's prospect theory in action.
Okay.
It explains that we tend to be a little risk-averse
Okay.
when it comes to potential gains.
So we're more likely to kind of play it safe when we're already ahead.
Exactly.
Interesting.
But here's the flip side.
Okay.
Imagine you're down $500.
Oh, no.
Not ideal, right?
Not the best.
Would you rather take a sure loss of $250?
Okay.
Or gamble on a 50-50 chance of losing all $500 or losing nothing?
So in that scenario, I think I'd be more inclined to take the gamble
Right.
because I'm already down.
You're already in the hole.
Might as well go big or go home.
Exactly. That's prospect theory again. When facing potential losses, we become more risk-seeking.
Interesting.
We're willing to gamble,
To avoid a sure loss.
even if the odds aren't exactly in our favor.
This is such a helpful framework, I feel like, for understanding
Right.
why people make seemingly irrational decisions.
Yes.
When it comes to money, to investments,
Oh, yeah.
even relationships,
Absolutely.
it's like suddenly everything makes sense.
It puts on those rose-colored glasses or maybe takes them off.
Right. It does. It really highlights the importance of just taking a step back,
Yes.
examining, like, what are our motivations here?
What's going on?
And considering the long-term consequences
What's long-term?
before making a choice.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about heuristics and biases,
The classics.
loss aversion,
Yeah.
framing prospect theory. I feel like we're just scratching the surface
We are.
of what Kahneman covers in Thinking Fast and Slow.
There's so much more.
What else did he talk about?
Okay, so he also dives into this idea of
Yes.
two selves.
Two selves. What?
Yes, the experiencing self and the remembering self.
Oh, two very different selves, I'm assuming.
They are, and he argues that they don't always agree,
Oh, no.
which can lead to some pretty interesting contradictions in
Okay.
how we view our own happiness and well-being.
Ooh, intriguing. Okay, so which self should we be listening to?
That's the big question, right? Well, it's not so much about choosing one self over the other. It's more like understanding that they both kind of play a role in our overall sense of well-being.
Gotcha.
So the experiencing self, that's the one that's like living in the moment,
Okay.
feeling every high and low.
Right.
And then you've got the remembering self. And that's like the storyteller
Okay.
that shapes the narrative of our lives.
Yeah.
Based on like peak moments and those lasting impressions.
So the remembering self is kind of like our inner Instagram filter,
Ooh, I like that.
focusing on the highlights and maybe like conveniently forgetting about those not so glamorous parts.
Yeah, exactly. And this has like big implications for how we make decisions.
Okay, how's
We might choose a vacation
Yeah.
based on those like totally Instagrammable moments that we're picturing in our heads,
Right.
even if those moments don't actually reflect like the overall enjoyment of the actual trip.
That's so true. I'm totally guilty of planning trips around those picture-perfect moments. But maybe it's more important to think about those experiences that my experiencing self will really savor, even if they don't end up on my feed.
Yes, prioritize the experiences that bring you joy, like in the moment,
Right.
even if they don't create like the most shareable memories.
Okay, I love that. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from heuristics and biases to loss aversion, framing prospect theory. We even dove into the two selves.
We went deep.
We did. My brain is officially full,
As it should be.
but in a
Yeah.
good way.
Good.
Any final takeaways for our listeners before we wrap up and they go explore Thinking Fast and Slow for themselves?
You know, I think the biggest thing Kahneman's book does is it's like a masterclass in self-awareness.
Okay, I like that.
It encourages us to become better observers of our own thinking. You know, to recognize those moments when our intuition might be leading us astray,
Right.
and when we really need to engage that more deliberate analytical side of our brain.
So it's not about ignoring our gut entirely,
No.
but like learning to tell the difference between helpful intuition and those pesky little biases.
Exactly.
That can totally trip us up.
And remember, this knowledge isn't about becoming like perfectly rational robots.
Okay.
Because that's impossible.
Impossible. And also no fun.
And honestly, no fun.
Yeah.
It's about being able to laugh at ourselves a little bit,
Right.
understanding that we all share these mental shortcuts,
Yeah.
and then using that awareness to make more thoughtful choices in our work, our relationships, just our everyday lives.
Beautifully said. Thinking Fast and Slow is definitely one of those books that changes the way you see the world
100%.
and yourself.
Yeah,
It's a must-read.
it really is.
And if you want to dive deeper into more fascinating topics like this one, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future deep dives. We're here to help you navigate the world of information overload one aha moment at a time. Until next time, happy thinking.